Hey, what's up? And welcome back to the Alpha Girl Confidence Podcast. This is episode 223, and I'm your host, Shay Haddo. So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to overcome feelings of doubt and insecurity. And really, you can apply this to any feeling that you're feeling. But this was a question that I recently got on one of our calls on Beyond the Athlete. And so it was such a good question. And I know it's something that every single human being deals with. So I wanted to bring it to you on the podcast today. So how we're going to go through this is it's going to be something that's very tangible for you to be able to use. So if you have like a notebook and you want to take some notes or just, take some mental notes or come back and listen when you have a notebook. But there's going to be some really awesome, powerful things that you can take from this podcast and then apply it to your life, whether it be in your sport or just in your daily life. So the question is, how do I deal with feeling insecure? Maybe that's feeling insecure on the field or court, or maybe that's just feeling insecure in a social situation with your friends. So first thing that I want you to realize is we're going to go through kind of a continuum here, right? So first thing that happens is we have a thought, and that thought will produce some sort of feeling. That feeling will lead to an action or a behavior, and that action or behavior will lead to a result. So we go thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So let's think about it. If we want to learn how to deal with the feeling of insecurity, where do we start? Let's start with thoughts. Okay, so let's start with thoughts, because if you can change, and I don't really like to use the word change, but if we can shift our thoughts, then we can shift the feeling, therefore shifting the action and the result, whatever that result is that you want. And let me make a kind of like a little bit of a backtrack here. In no means am I saying that feeling something is bad, that we're trying to always change our feeling. But if you're in a game and you're feeling insecure, that's something that we're going to try to shift. If you're around your friends and you're feeling insecure, that's something that we're going to try to shift. So I'm not saying that feeling and emotions are bad, that we're always trying to change those, because there are times and places where we want to really sit with those and digest those and kind of figure out where those come from. But in this instance, we're kind of thinking in the quick terms is, hey, I'm feeling doubt before trying to do a move, or I'm feeling doubt right before I go into the game after being on the bench. So that's more for this kind of short term, and you can also use this for long-term things. But remember, feelings are not bad. Thinking a feeling is a problem is actually the problem. So that's a whole other conversation that we've talked about before. So just wanted to throw that out there. So let's say that you're sitting on the bench and, oh no, the feelings of doubt come in, the feelings of insecurity come in. First thing I want you to do, this is a great place to take notes. First thing I want you to do in that instance is notice, what was the thought that I had just before that feeling? Maybe the thought was, you're not good enough. You're going to screw up. You better not let your teammates down. Okay, good. So first thing is identify the thought that happened before that feeling. And now that you've identified that thought, now we can work with and shift that thought. Important thing to remember is you cannot always control your thoughts. They're going to just pop up. So we got to learn how to shift them, right? So thought comes up, you're not good enough, you're going to screw up. Beautiful. Now what do is we ask ourselves, is that true? Is it true that I'm not good enough? Is it true that I'm going to screw up? And when you ask this question, is it true 100% of the time? So I'm sure you've had the thought of, I'm going to screw up or I'm not good enough in your life, right? I'm sure you've had that thought. I think we've all had that thought. So is it true 100% of the time that you're not good enough? Absolutely not. Is it true that you're going to screw up 100% of the time? No, I'm not going to screw up 100% of the time, but I will make some mistakes. So the answer to the question is no, it's not true. So if the thought is not true, if that thought that produced that feeling is not true, beautiful. Now we can take that thought, we can shift it to something that is more truthful, number one, and more helpful, number two. So what is a more truthful thought and more helpful thought? I am good enough. Great. Okay, another one. So that's for the I'm not good enough thought. That's one we can shift is to I am good enough. And what about the thought of I'm going to screw up? Okay, we know that that's not true, but what is true and what is more helpful, an example could be, hey, if I make a mistake, it's okay, I can recover from it, right? I just came up with that on the top of my head. I'm going to make mistakes, but that's okay. There's so many different things. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but I'm just trying to give you some examples. So if the thought is not true, what is a new, more helpful, more truthful thought that you can use instead? So let's say I may make a mistake, but I can recover from it. Great. Now that we have that thought, what's the feeling that that thought may elicit? Well, it could be more so of excitement as opposed to, insecurity and doubt, right? It could be more excitement. It could be more like, okay, like I got this, like the feeling of a little bit more confidence, right? So if you have the feeling of excitement over doubt, how do you think you will behave? What will the action be from that? Well, you'll probably go after the ball more. You'll probably call for the ball. You'll probably communicate more. You'll probably do all those things if you feel more excited, more confident. On the flip side, if you feel like, I'm going to screw up, and you feel, insecure and doubt, then you're going to be holding back. You're not going to be taking chances. You're going to just be playing it safe. So I hope you can see that how your thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, and those actions will lead to results. So let's go through it all, right? This new, more powerful thought that we've chosen for ourselves. Hey, I may mess up, but I can recover from it. Great. Now I have more feelings of confidence and excitement to go out there. Now what am I going to do on the field or court or whatever surface you play on? I'm going to take chances. I'm going to take the shot. I'm more likely to just go out and play hard. And the result of that is I'll have more fun. I'll have a better performance. And then that you can see that whole thing will just lead into this cycle. So this whole process, we just went through in like 5 minutes. This is a whole process that I spend, 30 to 45 minutes going through with the girls that I work with. So this was a really quick snapshot of that practice. But just remember, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So if you can trace it back to what am I feeling? Okay, that's kind of easy to know what you're feeling because you can feel it in your body. But if you can backtrack then to what was the thought before that, then you can start to shift everything, and everything after that thought will start to shift. Okay, so now once you're able to take that thought and shift that thought, it doesn't mean that the feelings of doubt and insecurity are completely going to go away. Like the more you practice it, the more it will go away, and the more of the new, more powerful feeling and action will come. But it doesn't mean that just because you shift your thought that all of a sudden that doubt and insecurity completely goes away. So that's why, number one, we're going to start with the thought. But number two is, even if you have the feeling of doubt, can I do this? You do it anyways. Even if you have the feeling of, I just feel so insecure and I don't know about this, you're going to go do it anyways. So do not let that feeling dictate your actions. Doubt is normal. This is a quote. I don't think I'm almost 99.99% sure I didn't make this up. Doubt is normal, but letting it stop you is a choice. Okay? Insecurity is normal, but letting it stop you is a choice. Caring too much about what other people think about you is normal, but letting it stop you is a choice. So you have the power. Do I believe the thought that says I'm not good enough? Or do I believe the thought that says I am good enough? And when you can see that you have the power to decide, hey, I want to believe this thought as opposed to this thought, that's when everything can change. So it's important to kind of go through the process like we talked about to get that practice, but then you got to really like buy into that new thought that you thought, right? You got to believe it, because when you believe it, then that's when the action is going to take place. So think that new thought, believe that it's true, and then even if the residual feelings of doubt and insecurity and I'm not good enough come up, do it anyways. Take the shot anyways. Go after the ball anyways. Talk to that person anyways. Raise your hand anyways. That's going to be the most powerful thing you can do, is not to let that fear actually stop you. The fear is going to be there. The fear is always going to be there. But when you can do the thing anyways, that fear gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Whereas if you have the feelings of doubt and insecurity and you hold back and you shy away and you go into a shell, the doubt and insecurity is going to go bigger and bigger and bigger because you just basically prove like, yeah, you're not good enough, so stay small, right? But if you can take action on it and do it anyways, even if it doesn't go perfectly right, you can still be like, you know what? I felt that doubt. I felt that insecurity and I did it anyways. Like, how cool is that? Like, I still feel awkward and I still feel a little bit insecure, but I'm super proud of myself for taking on that thing and busting through that fear anyways. So those are two big things there. So if we look at kind of the two big pieces that we talked about, right? Number one, it's realizing that your thoughts will lead to those feelings. So number one, let's take a look at those thoughts. Let's question those thoughts. Let's decide, is that true or is it not true? And let's shift it to a new, more helpful thought. So that's number one. Okay, now after that, you have to start to believe that new thought. When you believe that new thought, you're going to take action. You're going to do it anyways, even if you still feel the fear or the doubt or the insecurity. Again, having those feelings, having those thoughts is normal, but letting those things stop you is a choice. So I encourage you, next time you're feeling, just it's kind of like your skin is crawling, you feel awkward or you feel insecure, or you feel doubt, I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to say something to hype yourself up, and I want you to go do it. And the more you do that, it's like just like you have to practice a skill, you got to practice moving through those fears and those feelings. You have to practice moving through those, and the more you move through them, the easier it'll get to move through them. And over time, those fears will get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. Again, this is just a snapshot, a very powerful snapshot of a little bit of how our brains work, and how you can learn to be more aware of them, to shift them into a more helpful place. And then the second part is just kind of getting outside of your comfort zone and doing it anyways, doing it despite the not so pleasant feelings. So I hope it was helpful. If it was, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate. Would love an honest review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your attention, and I will catch you on next week's episode. See you there.